It's very timely for you. I look back to your RNC days with Dumont, and
Yeah,
it's a great asset, but the timing wasn't quite there. It's 12 years in the making. It'd be one of those 12,
yeah.
13-year overnight successes. Where your timing, I mean, nickel sulfide obviously is where you want to play. You're going to, I assume, be able to tell us a little bit about what you think you've got now, but I'm interested in how you're positioning this business, in terms of getting the cycle right, because we look at this, the wave of conversations we've had about nickel in the market, it's been phenomenal. The EV thematic
Yeah.
is, no one's disputing that. It's a question of timing seems to be important. So do you think you've timed it right?
Oh no, I think that the timing's been perfect. As you said, with RNC, with Dumont, I spent 7 years, promoting a project when nickel was out of favor. And again, we were setting up to deliver a nickel project for the next nickel cycle, which has now arrived. Our view is we need to double the supply of nickel that we have right now by 2030, and there's only a handful of projects that are ready. So to get something like Crawford ready for this next cycle, I think is perfectly timed. And I think, if in terms of investors looking for sort of how far sentiment has shifted, BHP Billiton, for most of the prior decade was looking to sell their nickel business.
Right.
Mike Henry in their annual report out basically said we need more future facing metals, we need more nickel, and we need more copper. So if the biggest mining company has done a 180, I can assure you that the management teams of every one of the other large mining companies is doing a similar view and has a similar take now on getting exposure to battery metals. And so again, having a large scale potential asset like Crawford in a jurisdiction like Ontario, where in the Timmins camp where mines have been permitted, relatively straightforward basis. I think the timing of this couldn't be better. And again, there's some other nickel sulfide opportunities we're looking at, because again, I think our team spent a lot of time looking at nickel sulfide when no one else did. So, we think we've got a leg up on the rest of the competition in identifying those assets that are going to be able to deliver the nickel the EV market needs by the end of this decade.
Okay, interesting. So, we spoke with Anthony Maluski last week, and we put a piece out at the weekend. He was quite complimentary of what you got, and people perhaps should take a look at that interview and sort of get his take on what you've got. What do you know about what you've got today, and then what are you going to do with it, and how do you pay for that? Because again, there's so many exploration plays we just aren't able to get the funding in place. I mean, you've just listed, you've got some cash now. What are you going to do with that cash?
Yeah, so again, I think the key thing is here, because we've got that experience, we're going to be able to accelerate the process and advance the process in a much more timely and cost-effective manner than we would, because Crawford is basically a very similar asset to Dumont with its own unique set of strengths. So with the money that we've raised, we'll have a resource out here very, very shortly, which I think will shock people in terms of just the scale of the resource that we've been all ready to drill with the few $1 million that we've raised to date. Again, I think as we take this forward, we'll be able to highlight, I think this resource will show what the potential of this property is. We've only drilled off, 15 to 20% of what we have at Crawford. And so, I think that's the highlight of that scale potential will be there. I think, what we've been able to deliver for the cash that we've invested to date will make it easier for the next set of investors to bring that money to, that next round of money that we need. And again, given our experience with Dumont, we'll be able to quickly advance Crawford into, the resource we have now into a PEA, and then look to, basically build out the other 85% of the property that we haven't drilled yet.
Right, and so, but what's the game plan here? You're using great words, so accelerated and value, and all of those wonderful things, which lots of people do. But I need to understand what that actually means. So you're going to deliver a resource which you're saying gives you the scale, and you've told me before scale.
Yeah, we're going to deliver a real resource, that I think will surprise a lot of people when they see it next week, and that resource on its own will be large enough to help support. Moving, and what we've seen to date will allow us to move right into a PEA on that resource itself. we still have 85% of the property that we haven't explored yet.
Right.
And so again, now that we understand, what the best part of what we've drilled off already, we know there are other pieces on the property that we're going to be able to find. There's a good chance we're going to find, similar good stuff in other parts of the property to make it even larger, than what we have right now. And I think the key thing in this market, and again, to point to investors in generally, investing right now, the market is really bifurcated into two categories of assets. So if you own a world scale asset that the majors want to buy, and again, there's companies in Colombia and Ecuador, that have found the new range of copper gold elephants, those stocks have traded well. And then there's everybody else. And so, what we really want to show with this first resource is that, we're in elephant country. And so, and that we're going to hopefully find a bunch of elephants on this property, and have something that I think will be interesting to large mining companies, to large EV players, and to large EV suppliers, that this is exactly the kind of nickel cobalt resource they're looking to help build their business around.
Okay, so this is the bit that it interests me is the model. I need to understand this model. So you've got some money. You will deliver a resource next week. You will continue. You hope that'll have an impact on the share price. It'll also get people to notice, that you're here, because there are not too many of these around. Okay, I get that. I want you to help me understand what people are getting into. What will investors get into? Will it be just a long series of dilutory raises to kind of get you to where you need to be? How do you assure people that they're not in for a long, drawn-out process? And how quickly are you going to deliver your plan, where you do either hand it over to a big strategic who actually goes and puts the money in for this, or you bring in the strategic partners who, again, coming in at asset level and not diluting people, in the public company?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, we will be out to raise the next set of money for the PEA. That's the next stage that we need to get through. And we will have, we'll be looking to bring a strategic in at that point in time if the pricing makes sense. And so, and again, we've already had some interest on that front. I think, the key thing from here is we're going to advance in towards that, get that PEA done. And then from there, we'll be able to move right into a feasibility study. The key thing from a managing the process perspective is that you need to have some, and communicate to the market some very clear milestones that you are able to move quickly. Because if you can't demonstrate to the market that you're going to move quickly, then the large mining companies, suffer from inertia issues, and so they'll never quite get around to making that investment. But if it's very clear that if they don't step up today, or they don't step up in 3 months, or they don't step up in 6 months, we're going to be moving the ball, to use a sports analogy, moving the ball very quickly down the field, and they're going to find themselves chasing a valuation, which is hopefully, going to be improving materially, as we move forward here.
Okay, but let's come back to what some of those deliverables are, because again, a lot of companies use these phrases, and I want to separate cliche from actual delivery. Okay. What are the moments, and what do they mean for you?
Yeah, first resource out very soon. PEA out by the end of September, worst case end of October. Feasibility study out before the end of 2021. That's about as fast as that you can advance a project today. We're already assembling the PEA team in place, again, with experience with Dumont, that we're going to be able to bring that knowledge and experience to bear and be able to quickly, advance the project going forward.
Okay, and clearly each of those deliverables, you hope there's a bump in the price and you're able to raise money more cheaply each time. So there's not a long dilutory process here, and there's not a lot of money to get to feasibility. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes, very much so. So again, I think when this resource comes out, in the coming week, people will be surprised, just how many tons of nickel we've delivered for how few exploration dollars at this point. The benefit of these large scale, low grade deposits is we're not drilling lots of 500 meter holes to hit 10 meter gold veins. We're drilling a 500 meter hole, of which 450 meters of that end up in assays that you can use in a model. Again, because the deposit doesn't twist and turn and get faulted in 50 different directions, you can use much wider drill spacing to define the resource. that you're using. So both of those things help to be able to define, a very large resource very quickly.